All right, just before we get started, I want to tell you about the Shopify app I think a lot of growing brands should know about, and it's called Plitix. Now, Plitix is a multi-store AI bulk editor that makes managing product content on Shopify actually scalable. Now, after 6 years inside Shopify and running my own brand, I really wish that a tool like this had been around back then. Because once your catalog gets serious, Shopify alone starts to break down. Like, try a simple find and replace across your product descriptions. You'll end up exporting to a spreadsheet, making the change, and then importing back just to update one phrase. And multiply that across translations and variants and even missing meta fields, and then you've burned a week. Especially if you've got like 1,000 or more SKUs or you're adding 50 or more products a month. Now, I've known about Plitix for a while, but I didn't think much of them for Shopify. But recently, I took another look, and they're now laser focused on Shopify-specific problems and helping brands adopt what they call content-led growth. And that means like better product content drives more discoverability and better sales across Shopify, marketplaces, and the incredibly important and emerging world of AI shopping. And their credentials in the ecosystem are real too. They are the #1 product information management software, or PIM, on G2, 5 years running, and are now ranked the #4 for best commerce software this year alone. So if your team is losing hours on manual product edits, grab Plitix app for free in the Shopify App Store, or you can head on over to plitix.com/fastlane. That's PLYTIX.com/fastlane. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Well, welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Now, today's conversation is this is an important conversation, I might add, but it's all about getting found, where I guess search is kind of not really looking like search anymore. I mean, I think that the habits are changing about the discoverability and the research phase that goes into buying a product. And so, and if you've maybe noticed that maybe your organic traffic is kind of drifting down a bit, or maybe, and this is clearly happening to everyone, is that your ad costs are climbing, like through paid social and whatnot. And you don't really have like a real way of knowing whether like ChatGPT or Claude or Google's AI overviews, are they truly recommending your brand, or are they recommending a competitor's brand? And so I think all of that is like really important. And that's one of the reasons why I have my guest on today. It's Rob Langenback, and he's the president of a company called 802, which I'm going to ask in a minute about where that come from. I think it's a Vermont area code. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to find out. 802 in words like that. And I'll give you the link in the show notes. But search really is the only thing that his agency does. And from what I understand, doing some research, like last year, their team drove over $1 billion in online revenue for their clients. And it's so interesting. They have some incredible brands, mid-market to enterprise. We're going to dig into it, a lot of it. It's so interesting. So, hi, Rob. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. It's great to chat. Love the podcast.
All right. Thank you so much. So you spent, from what I can see, I kind of creep on your LinkedIn profile. You spent about 12 years inside 820, and search is, like I said, it's the only thing your agency does. Like, what's actually changed in these clients' accounts? Maybe let's just talk over the last year, because AI has really been dominating, the narrative lately. You clearly know that there's the SEO side of the world and being organically found, but what has changed over the last 12 months from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us, the biggest shifts we've been seeing is the types of traffic coming to our client website. So, if you think of things in terms of, top of funnel, kind of more informational driven searches, to kind of bottom of funnel, people are ready to buy, right? We've seen a much more traffic coming at that bottom of funnel for clients. A lot of that kind of informational type search is happening more and more in, your different tools, your Claudes and your Chat GPTs, or even in Google. We see a lot of that traffic go into AI overviews. So we talk a lot about the rise of zero click, right? We've been talking about this for 10 years, I feel like, in SEO, but In the last really, the last 12 months, I would say we've seen the most dramatic changes, right? The search results, we see a lot more AI overviews for everything when you search. We see a lot more product grids showing up in the search results as well. So there's been changes a little bit strategically on how we're optimizing sites or what we're trying to target, where we're trying to capture those customers. And it's like I said, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I think the last 12, 18 months has been pretty exciting, right? A lot of shifts, a little scary too at times, but a lot of
Yeah.
changes happen in the search, which is, changing how we do things, but also presenting opportunities, I think, especially for a lot of, stores, or clients, or brands that are on Shopify, right? Smaller brands trying to kind of find their way and get ahead in, markets that are primarily been dominated by big brands.
Right. What's interesting though is, like there's the ongoing narrative right now is that, traffic is going down for a lot of sites. I mean, like we talk about this kind of like these zero-click queries they talk about. They talk about, these blue links in Google, and some people aren't even going to Google anymore, but they're doing their research. So if they're doing their research and getting their answers through these chat systems, or through AI overviews, I don't know if that's necessarily always bad news. I think there's a little bit of a line between maybe healthy traffic loss, but versus maybe like losing ground, so to speak. So what's your thought process on the fact that traffic in some cases is going down, but then brands can still have revenue going up if they're thinking about things from a different perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably, the biggest challenge we face right now and we've been dealing with this year has been that visibility tracking, right? We lose that a lot when people go to your Claude or your ChatGPT or an LLM and they do their research. They may refine their search from there, right? So they're making multiple searches without ever visiting a website, and we're blind to that, right? The only time we can see the anything is when they make a click. So if your brand is recommended in ChatGPT, they may click on the result, they come to your website. Now at least we can track that session. We can see a referral, hopefully a conversion. But visibility has definitely been the big struggle here, right? Trying to find out where we're being cited, where we're being recommended. We do see, kind of across our client side, I would say, stronger conversions, because we're seeing a lot more of that purchase driven search drive into our site. We're losing visibility into, where are they finding us, kind of from the start, right? Where is our brand being recommended? Where are we being thrown into that conversation? And that's something that we're still, we're working through it a little bit, but I think that's where the biggest struggle has been.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Harley Finkelstein from Shopify has kind of made some comments recently, and I think that he kind of shared it publicly on one of their earnings calls or whatever, and saying that that the AI traffic is still right now is still under 3% of across all the accounts that he was able to talk about publicly. But he also made a comment that AI driven discoverability of a brand, the conversion rate of at least the touch point through AI discoverability is significantly higher. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm going to look it up in a minute, but it's interesting to me that, yeah, fair enough. At this point in time, like here we are in July of 2026, but that's only 3% of attributed revenue or attributed conversion, but the conversion rate of that attribution is massive, right? Compared to traditional search.
Yeah, I would say it's exactly what we've been seeing too. So the overall number, I tell everyone, most clients are probably anywhere from 1 to 5% of your traffic or revenue is coming from the different LLMs. But we do see very strong conversion. So for you, if for anybody that breaks out like brand and non-brand, generally on the brand traffic, we see like 2, 3, 4, 5 times higher conversion rates for branded search traffic. We're kind of in the middle between non-brand and brand for LLM traffic. I'd say it's not quite as strong as brand, but it does convert very well, which again, I think kind of speaks to the tools, right? People are going to them because they're trying to find a product for their, whatever they're looking for, running shoes, right? And then they're like, I need running shoes for a beginner runner or for my first 5K or, maybe for an ACL repair. Like they're creating these really specialized searches. They're refining based on the answers, and then they're getting recommendations from the tools, right? And ultimately, if you're a brand or your product is being recommended, I think that's why we see that great conversion, right? Because by now the tools are doing a really good job of actually making good product recommendations versus historically traditional search is hit or miss, right? We see a lot of shopping ads in there, a lot of products. You would then have to go in, read the reviews, see if it's good for your use case, right? I think the tools are doing such a good job of making those kind of short list recommendations that when they do come to your site, we do see that really, really strong conversion.
Yeah, I've just looked. I'd looked up Harley's comment here in the. This was the Q1 earnings call, and he said that like AI-driven traffic to Shopify stores grew 8x compared to the same quarter last year, and orders originating from AI-powered search rose nearly 13x over the same period. So he added that like new buyer orders coming in from AI searches are happening at close twice the rate of traditional organic search. So it's quite interesting. So this is a
Yeah.
true reality from Shopify.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of growth too. I mean, even though that number, the overall percent of traffic is small, when we compared it to 12 months ago, I mean, for clients that are tracking it, we're seeing like, it's all 1,200% year over year, 1,500% year over year. So we are seeing a lot of growth. And what we've been tracking mostly is thinking of it in kind of like quarter over quarter. So look at each quarter, we can see that number keeps getting bigger and bigger for clients where we track it. So if you're not already, I definitely urge everyone to, make sure in your analytics you're tracking, all your sessions and all your revenue from these tools. Look at that conversion because we have been seeing, like I said, a year ago, it was very small for some clients. We have some clients where they're, I think last quarter they've done a couple $100,000 in revenue coming from these tools, which is crazy compared to where it was, just 12 or 18 months ago.
It's amazing. So like let's talk about maybe like a brand that wants to come up as a short list. Let's say they're using ChatGPT or Claude, and they're doing this research. How does a brand? I know this is the $1 billion question, but how does a brand come up on this list during their interaction with these tools? How does a Shopify business come up? Because the challenge on one side, it seems, traditional SEO and a high-profile backlink profile, and an age domain. There's a lot of kind of traditional SEO things that go along with at least how Google is ranking and scraping and AI overviewing things. But other than Google side of it, like when you think about Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT, how do you become part of the conversation with your brand in these systems?
Yeah, I think the big thing is making sure you have really good product information. And I think it's so important because what the tools are looking for, they're trying to match, of course, that product recommendation back to their use case. I say a lot. So when we think about your Shopify store and your product page, it's really trying to figure out how can we make sure we build really robust product pages, product information. We want it clean, of course. We want it structured really well, easy to understand. But trying to answer, like for somebody that wants to buy your product ultimately, what are the types of questions that would lead them to the page? So what exactly is the product for? What situations is this product best for? Why would somebody choose the product? How does it differ from similar products? And really anything the buyer may want to use that for. So we also mention a lot like this product is best for this type of situation or this type of person, right? I think that's really important because that's what the tools are also looking for when they're making the recommendation. So for example, we have a client that sells, swimwear. So, is this UPF 50? Make sure that's in there. Is it best for, certain locations, certain types of people? There's all the different things you can include in there. So it's trying to think about what would be most helpful for your shoppers. So trying to avoid generic descriptions, especially if they're coming from, say, vendors or they're used on other websites as well. Trying to differentiate out your product pages and really focus in the strengths of those products. So, example, in your product copy for some swimwear, you might put, what is the best long sleeve swimsuit for someone with sun sensitive skin? that wants to spend several hours on the beach, right? So that's like a keyword you would never probably focus on years ago, but those are the types of searches people make. So trying to include some copy around that on the page, trying to say, hey, this is a great swimsuit for somebody that is sun sensitive skin, or that does spend long days on the beach, or whatever else you can include on there. That's helpful.
I see. And so is there anything specific? I mean, these are some great examples for sure. I mean, I would think adding like FAQs and some
Yep.
schema and some certain things, I think that adds a little bit more of the long tail. But it also, I think it's a mindset shift a little bit about we're not necessarily just going after keywords and the long tail of those keywords, which is traditional SEO. It now it's more of a conversational type queries. People are using the microphone icon. They're speaking into their phones too in search systems. Like people are getting more used to. I mean, you can speak 130 words a minute faster than. I mean, I use WhisperFlow, for example. With microphone to text translation in real time, because I can't type 130 words per minute. I'm more of a henpecker, and I think that's what's happening. It seems to be a lot of people now are using these systems now where they just want to speak into it quickly, their desktop or on their phone, and knowing that the natural language is different than typing and being more succinct. And so, like, it's interesting to me, like, about thinking about these queries, what people are, potentially are saying into these AI systems to then have your product be discoverable. Maybe part of it could be schema, could be part of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a couple things, definitely schema. I think that's super important. It's been one of those, it's always important for SEO. I think nowadays it's gained some importance again. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at that too. When we think about products, obviously we want to make sure ideally you have schema markup in place, but really you try to build it out. There's lots of optional schema that you can include. So we highly recommend that. I think even for like one that's often overlooked for schema markup is like the variant markup, which shows, hey, we have this item in these different sizes, these different colors, different patterns, things like that. And that's really important, not only for, the LLMs to have, but also just within, really Google, which is still the dominant player on about search, because we see so many more product grids, a lot of organic shopping results, and all these opportunities for those products to be visible. So the more data we can give the tools, we're going to be more visible in their systems as well. So I think that is really important.
It's interesting too about I wrote about this recently about the whole structured data side of it, and adding things like not just price but availability, having your brand name in there, maybe even some ratings in there. I don't think it's a definitely a ranking factor, but I think it's interesting to have like machine readable floor for your product. And I think of things like there's more about like, can you extract all of the answers out of that? Like, we're talking about like having like more raw HTML, which I think Shopify would have, because I think there's some challenges right now with being able to read, non-HTML content like JavaScript and things like that. I think Google can do it, but the other ones don't. And so having a clean data, and then having it, extractable facts that, maybe even things like, I don't know, like dimensions of a product or materials or fit or care or whatever. I don't know, like all those sort of things. I think you have to really think differently, on your PDP page than you would maybe in the past.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the more quality information we can give the tools, it's just going to help. So you mentioned even like sizes, right? If you're renovating, my wife and I have a room we're renovating, we take a picture, we ask ChatGPT, give us some decoration, decor ideas, right? So it shows us a couch and a carpet and all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then the dimensions become important, because now it's saying, hey, you need a couch that's 80 to 84 inches wide and that this style, whatever that is. So if we can include that on the page, the odds of your product showing up for somebody like me who's using the tool to like get some ideas, and then it's going to make some recommendations for that fit that space, those details become really important. And I think that the details really matter too, just because we have to be really explicit with the tools, right? We have to tell them exactly what the product is, and all those details. I mean, one thing we see a lot for clients is they try to create these really lovely names, I'll call it, but sometimes they forget to call a shirt, right? So we've got plenty of clients, we come on board, we look at product names for their store, and they're not calling the products what they are. What's the product type? So like the product type is super important to be included. If we don't call it a shirt, how do we expect the tools to know that that's a shirt? If you give it, a nice name, like, and we had a client there, they would name their products things like the Emma, right? But that doesn't tell the tool what it is. So we have to be really explicit, try to give it more, good data. We want it structured really well. We want it clean. And we want to be really try to understand, again, our customers, what would eventually lead them to this product, and make sure we include all those details on those pages.
Hmm. So that's the PDP page, this product details page. Now, let's talk a little bit about the collection page, because I know that from what I've read, something that you wrote, that you feel, and I agree with this, by the way, is that the collection page on Shopify is the most, and I quote, the most underrated SEO asset in e-commerce, is what you say.
Yeah.
Can you make a case and tell me, what separates maybe a good collection page versus maybe a not so great one?
I think I don't want to say it again, but it's more the details, right? So like on the collection page, obviously we want to make sure we have a great product assortment. It's been optimized and ordered and everything, but really trying to help guide our customers on there. So we like to add some copy on those pages, of course. Again, trying to maybe add some comparison blocks on there, information related to the topic. So if you're, maybe you sell kayaks, right, on your page, help the customers purchase from you, right? Help guide them in that purchase decision. What makes a good kayak? What should you be looking out for? What types of kayaks for different use cases, different price points? Really trying to educate the customer. I mean, really, I think the big thing, whether it's on the category or even product pages, we want to provide valuable content for your customers to ultimately help them convert. We don't want them to go back into Google or back into an LLM to make these searches. We want to try to educate them, give them what they're looking for on those pages. They'll hopefully get the information right there and hopefully make that purchase.
It's interesting too, yeah. And I agree with this, because I think that a lot of the searches that maybe land on these collection pages, I don't think they're actually searching for products. I think the queries are, I don't know, let's say like best waterproof hiking boots.
Yep.
They haven't really thought about Solomon yet, or whatever brand, whatever they're thinking about. I think the person that is, searching for a particular model name or whatever, I think they're already sold, and that's fine. They can go to the PDP page or Amazon or wherever they're going to go. I think, but a person that's searching like a category, that's why I think category optimization, I think, is really hugely underrated. I think even Shopify, as even these themes that are out there, I don't think they're not well orchestrated to be collection friendly. It's more of a holding area that's filterable. But the good companies, and I have lots of case studies that I've done, that I've even seen too, where their collection pages are doing phenomenal because they have on-page content that answers the queries for that type of like high-level query of that product mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it's, when we organize those pages, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of create more granular, we call them like subcategory collection pages, where it's, trying to organize your products really around specific needs, or things that people are looking for within that kind of broader category, if you will. But I do agree. I think, when you come to a product page, generally the customer pretty much knows that they've already made the decision of what they want, right? And it's just whether or not you have that product that fits the need. On that level up, when we're on the category or collection page, a lot of that traffic that's coming to your site, they haven't really decided what they want yet, right? So I think that's really a great opportunity for us to kind of help, again, educate and guide them into that kind of our purchase funnel, what products they should be looking at, right? Why, your products are the best.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about paid media, because I think it's interesting how paid and organic reach, and then AI visibility reach, it seems like sometimes they massage each other a little bit, or there's certainly it's part of the overall journey of discoverability and then to an eventual conversion. Like when you when you do audits, let's say a new brand comes to you, they're obviously like, where are you in organic search? Where are you in AI visibility? Where are you, like, what's the process for paid acquisition through paid social? When you do all this audits, like what generally are you finding with brands today?
Yeah, so it kind of depends if it's on paid versus organic. I think organic, the first thing we generally do is try to get an idea of how well they're ranking currently, right? Both
Yeah.
traditional in the AI tools, it's a little hard because there's not any great tools, I would say, that do a good job of looking at what the prompts people are searching, especially because they are so hyper specific. So we may just make a few on our side, and just kind of see where they're showing up, right? Are they showing up at least for the ones we think they should be most relevant for? But generally, we kind of do an initial baseline visibility report, see where they're ranking, where we think their traffic estimates are, look for like keyword themes, what their brands are known for, and then generally just start taking a look at their website, right? What are they doing on those category pages or their product pages, and really trying to identify some opportunities. So generally, our audit, we're going to look at that visibility for them. We're going to look at some hopefully easy wins or opportunities based on what, from our experience, what works and what we see. And then just try to share the data. I think data is huge too, showing where we see some opportunities, right? Where there's opportunities to kind of lean a little more harder into and drive some growth. And then, I think a lot of times what we see, there's usually a disconnect of what brands think they're known for and what they actually rank for. They don't really, I don't think they look closely enough at the keyword data to really truly see where they're showing up and where they're not.
Right. And so, like, how do marketplaces fit into this? Because it's usually like, a multi-channel strategy of most Shopify businesses to be on Amazon. They could be in Etsy. They could be, other different types of niche marketplaces. Amazon being the largest, but you obviously, all brands want to have a home. Very few, I mean, there are some brands that start on Amazon and kind of stay there, but they know that the long-term play is to actually have their owned audience, and instead of like rented audience through Amazon. But what's your thought process around the multi-channel side of what's going on? Because it looks like Amazon, there's been on again, off again, and who they're working with from an AI discoverability, like on page, they had Rufus or something, and they had some kind of thing they were running and how it was being powered. And then Amazon still has really high organic reach for a lot of products, and even some collection page. They have a lot of reach on a lot of things. So, like, how do you balance the Amazon side of a brand versus maybe your owned audience on your own Shopify store?
Yeah, and that's a tough one. Or we have, I would say, mixed clients, different perspectives on that.
Mhm.
The one thing I would say is, when you're optimizing on your Shopify store and you're trying to really grow that channel, you own that, right? Like you
Yeah.
have, once you move things to Amazon, it's tough because things can change. If you're really build out listings or you're trying to, be in these categories, somebody else can swoop in and kind of undercut your price, and then they take over that, really the revenue on that side of things. So, plus you start to compete with Amazon, right? So if your product's unique, you sell it on your Shopify store, you also have it on Amazon, maybe Walmart Marketplace and some others. Now, when people go and start searching for your brand or for that product, you're competing against all the different marketplaces, and just inherently they rank really well, right? So, um, I think it's it's a necessary evil in a lot of cases where you
Yeah.
do need to play there because there's such big demand. But I do think, just knowing that generally selling on your Shopify store, there's more profitability there. And long term, it's, I think, where you want to at least make sure a lot of your focus is to keep growing. It's tough when you're, depending on what stage you're at as a brand, because there is that, the Amazon has that kind of immediate, list your product there and you can generate a lot of revenue. But I think ultimately, you want to kind of grow your Shopify store, you want to get your customers there, then you can, kind of really nurture those customers long term, right? We can then sell, email to them or make them offers, and really just continue to have them come back to you. There's not that same brand loyalty in Amazon either. So the kind of lifetime value of the customer is much lower, where we get them that first time in Shopify or to our web store. We hope they'll come back and we can sell to them again and again.
Yeah, exactly. I also find sometimes, I don't want to say Amazon is evil, but sometimes it happens where, Amazon does have all the data, both query data, conversion data. They know what's going on. And there's lots of case studies where Amazon has knocked off brands or have forced people to get involved with certain programs, more exclusive programs through Amazon because they don't want third party sellers. They want to kind of own the narrative of a particular. I remember at a brand I managed when I was at Shopify, and it was a hair removal company, and their whole they got message from Amazon and saying like, we see that you're, and this is a well known brand, but they like, we don't want any third party sellers anymore on the network. You can sell on the network, but we're going to buy from you wholesale, and we are going to publish it ourselves on Amazon under your brand name, but we want to control the narrative and the pricing. Um,
Yes. Yeah, I've seen the same thing. And that's why I said it's kind of is tough just because you don't own anything, right? And what we've seen a lot of times similar where yeah, Amazon will then buy your product direct or they'll buy from the same wholesaler and then they don't care about map pricing. If they need to, they'll get rid of it. But also, if you start doing well within a product category with Amazon, what's naturally going to happen is there's going to be more competition. There's going to be more sellers trying to price undercut you for that buy
yeah,
box, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of that's why I said long term. You could you might have a couple years that do really well or a couple months, but you lose that buy box or you lose that price advantage. People once they see that you're doing well on Amazon, they're going to go try to knock your product off and sell it for less. So it's again, it's not there's a lot of great things about the platform, but if you're a brand, if you have if you really truly want to grow the brand, I think it's a great place to be is on Shopify.
percent. I had an interview I did a couple weeks ago, talking about Amazon and then all the knockoffs and fraudulent things that are happening, like these IP
Yeah.
issues and stuff like that, because it's so easy to and tools and things to scrape, and Chinese sellers and things like that are just seeing what's going on. Even on Etsy, same thing again. They see the 5-star reviews, they see things trending. There's all the tools out there to do it, and they just kind of knock it off, make a slight change. Sometimes they don't even knock it off correctly, and it goes down a really ugly path. And then there's even stories where people are getting messages saying, "Hey, I bought your product, even though you bought it from a
Yep.
third party seller, and I'm having a problem with it." And they're like, "What's your order number?" And like, "We didn't sell you that." Yeah, that's our product, or at least it looks like it is. And it just goes down an ugly path. And I think that's the sad thing about the It's not saying that you shouldn't be on Amazon, but you got to be really mindful. I should put that IP one in the show notes, just so people know, like, because you never know, if in fact you are being fraudulently knocked off, and it really is for brands that are more at scale, where if because you have traction already, it's easier to knock you off because you already have sales and brand awareness. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was a great. I listened to that the other day. It was great. It was a great listen, and I would say that we've seen very similar to that episode as well. We've kind of seen it all with our clients over the years on Amazon. So it
yeah,
is. As I listened, I was like, yeah, we've seen that same thing, and it's the same thing, right? When you're a nobody, nobody cares. But
yeah,
once you start getting any success on the platform and you start driving enough sales, all these scrapers, they see that you're generating that revenue and they're like, well, we're just going to knock the product off and now sell it for a little bit less.
yeah.
And yeah, it's I don't know, like I said, there's a lot of great things, but we've dealt with it with our clients over the years. They've had some nightmare situations as well on there.
Crazy. I noticed there's a lot of case studies, and I don't know if there's any one that is of note that you'd like to talk about, or maybe more anecdotally if you're under NDA with a certain brand. But I guess I just like to get the warm and fuzzy and saying, hey, here's what this brand's life was without 802, and then here's their life now, like being, within our organization and us managing a certain part of their business. Just curious if you can kind of share any upsides that have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we work with a lot of different brands, of course, at kind of different stages. Recently we've had a couple good kind of smaller brands getting into the space. We had one specifically. I mentioned swimwear before, but also in cookware, where same thing. They're like basically a nobody. They don't really didn't have any traffic, and it's hard to get ahead when you're competing against all the huge players. So again, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, from a strategic side of things, we really tried to focus on how we can, highlight what makes them different, both on the collection pages and their product pages, really trying to kind of build those out, right? Trying to call out this product is best for all day sun coverage, as an example, or these types of situations. So getting really specific, I can't show the client specifically just with the case study, but I do think the tactic works really well. So in just a short time, so about 18 months with this client, they basically had no traffic whatsoever from organic. They were kind of new to the space to, now they have, we're getting close to 30,000 visits a month through Google, primarily, and some LLM traffic starting to come. So we've seen some pretty significant growth there in a pretty short time. So it took a lot of work with the client, but I think now we're in a good place, and we continue to kind of see kind of like a small brand start to make some headway in a large space.
What's interesting though too is what about the DIY people that are listening? Maybe they're like literally in the early days, but they're, that's why they're listening to the show, is like they're trying to figure out like what's the next strategy or tactic that I can implement. Maybe I'm not quite ready yet, for an agency partner to kind of like take over a certain part of my business, which is that's fine too. I mean, everybody's on a different journey and all that. And I think that's kind of why we're here today. We're here to educate people. If it's a good fit, great. We'll talk about that maybe near the end of the show. But early stage people right now that maybe want to check and find out if they're being recommended or discovered in AI tools. You said there's nothing really great out there because it's hard to kind of figure out the queries and stuff. But is there any process you're kind of recommending early stage people to do to maybe just at least start their own personal education about, well, where do I come up in AI visibility? Is there tools or process that you could think about that you could share today?
Yeah, I mean, generally what we do is we try to think about our best customers, right? So what are your best customers? How did they find you? How do you think they found you? What products are they looking for? And really, kind of reverse engineered a little bit, even honestly using the tools. For example, if you have a couple products that you're kind of most well known for, or product types, ask Claude, ask ChatGPT, ask Google, why, how would a customer find me, or why might a customer come to me? Ask the tools some of those questions, find out what the questions may be from the customers, and then go back to the tool and essentially search for the same thing, right? So I know we mentioned running shoes earlier. So if you may find that, if you sell running shoes, people are coming to there because ChatGPT is recommending your shoe for people who maybe, are in their 40s and had an ACL tear or need extra support, things like that. So I think you even lean on the tools to try to understand, what are our best products? How do people find these products? What types of searches are they making? And then honestly, go to the tools and make those searches, right? So it's, again, because they're so hyper personalized, you're never going to have the same prompt twice. People get different results. But really, we want to try to find patterns of, if I were to search for 3 or 4 of these prompts that I think are super relevant, do we show up? Does a specific competitor show up? And then trying to find those trends, right? But again, I think we can kind of lean on AI, even trying to understand your customers if you don't already.
Yeah, and I think I wrote about this too. Like I think that there is a free ish kind of process. You're right, by using any one of these AI tools, and just take 15 minutes and think about maybe 10 questions that maybe a real buyer would ask, kind of before purchasing, maybe in your category, like things like I don't know, best waterproof boots for wide feet under $200 or something or whatever, or
Yeah.
I don't know, like what's the best natural deodorant that actually works. I don't know. Like, I think if you kind of think about those ways of like what a real human would ask, I think you run those 10 prompts, like literally, like separately in ChatGPT and Perplexity or whatever. And then kind of like, then log the answers on a spreadsheet. I mean, and ask the tool to log it for you. Because I think in the early days, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So I am coming up or I am not. And then, okay, so I really do need to work on my PDP page, or I really do need to work on my collection page. Things that you've learned today, because you're not coming up. And who is coming up? Let me go to those PDP pages. Let me go to those product pages and take a look, because I want to be discovered in here. Why am I not discovered? Well, then it goes down a rabbit hole a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the DIY people, right? So I think those things are available. I think and there are some mid early stage kind of tools that are out there, like searchable.com, I think is one. There's a few others out there that are interesting that, will ingest your website and, your site map and look at Google Search Console and Google Analytics and come up with some hypotheses about where you fit organically and through AI systems. So, I mean, there's some tools out there that could help that. But once again, it's you don't want to buy tools and then not do anything with them. And I think that's the flip side of the mid market that you serve and enterprise. But the market that you serve is like, no. We have the tools and systems in place, but we also have the execution layer of actually getting shit done. So can you talk about kind of like your sweet spot of merchant and what your process is?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think there's a lot of different tools emerging right now. So I think it's something. There are some tools out there you can probably pull some data, and honestly, even just looking at where you rank within Google, right? Like using a tool like we use SEMrush a lot, or there's a lot of other tools like Moz's and things where you can kind of see where you rank in Google, and then maybe take some of those and see how you rank for those same searches, maybe with some additional prompts there within the LLMs as well. But yeah, more manual now for the smaller stores. I think kind of for mid-market and enterprise clients, I mean, honestly, we're similar. We're still emergent tools. We are starting to do some prompt tracking for those clients. Right. Visibility is tough. It's not your traditional, hey, this is how many keywords you ranked for, and these are all the positions. So it really does require manual effort to a lot of extent, where you have to really decide what prompts are worth looking at, worth tracking, worth looking to optimize for, right? And the thing that we've really lost in that is that keyword data, saying, hey, there's 1,000 people a month search for this keyword or prompt. Part of it's understanding that customer, thinking about which prompts are most important to your business, and then just trying to get a sample size, right? Knowing that we're not going to be able to get all of them. We just want to know directionally, like, are we showing up? Is one of our competitors showing up? Who's showing up for these terms? Are we being cited? Are we being recommended? And it's changing quickly, right? 2 different days, we're going to get 2 different results as the other piece of that. So it's still, I would say, very much emergent. So we are starting to do some tests, and we have a bunch of different tools we're testing with kind of always, just to see what works best. But I think for your larger kind of mid-market, larger clients, trying to get some kind of baseline prompt tracking in, and really just understand if you're being shown at all, is really important.
The other thing I'd add too that I know has been quite helpful for brands. So we have the PDP page, so product details, then we have the collection page optimization. Then I'd also argue too that creating a brand is really about creating community around the business, and then knowing that is obviously having some kind of a blog or some way of interacting. Maybe not just in social, which is still an owned audience, or it's an external audience and stuff, but was still a necessary part of getting social proof around a business, but on page having a blog. What's your mindset around blog content? And then, like, is this still traditional SEO built into the topics and conversations that are happening? Because it would seem to me interesting that I wouldn't be surprised if these LLMs are crawling these blogs on these e-commerce sites and citing certain things, because there's no reason why you can't have a piece of blog content that's talking about how to wear this particular product in a hot summer in Europe or whatever, and then potentially link and or show a couple pieces that kind of might make sense that are trending right now. So you're still kind of leading back to a product page. But what's your thought on blog content as it relates to discoverability?
Yeah, it definitely still is a great tactic. I think blog content is a great way to influence the results. And even those recommendations, right? So if we're, again, just using the running shoes example, if ChatGPT is going to make some running shoe recommendations, it's a great opportunity to publish some blog content around, running shoes. These are the best running shoes for these different situations, or for these types of people, or these types of use cases. I think the biggest shift we've seen when it comes to blog content is really just trying to ask, like, will this content help a potential customer buy our product or convert, right? So there's always, when we think about blog content, we write it at different stages of that buyer kind of journey, if you will. I think for us, the big thing is, will this help somebody convert? Does this help them make a decision? If so, I think it's still a great tactic. I think kind of that very top of funnel, like, hey, this is how maybe you use the product, or, even like post-purchase content. Obviously, we'd like to have content help support the customers after they make a purchase of our products. But I think we really want to focus in on content that will help ultimately drive to a conversion. They're helping that purchase decision. But it also does help influence the results as well. So it's good to kind of be talking about the products you sell and try to talk about them in a way that explains the different use cases, what sets them apart, the benefits of them, why you may choose one over the other, how it compares to alternatives. And then, hopefully the LLMs read that and they'll kind of surface some of that in their recommendations.
Yeah. This is amazing. So I know that 802, you have, we talked more about like the AI visibility side. I think that's kind of like the hot and trending topic right now when it comes to Shopify businesses right now. You do have a lot of other kind of internal services available. I think you have like your paid media, like your PPC side of it, and traditional kind of SEO, I believe, is probably still there. There's still content production, however that looks, and we've kind of just chatted about that. You also talk a little bit about this, and I guess there's lots of acronyms that are floating around. We have there's answer engine optimization, there's generative engine optimization, there's and that's a whole separate kind of like service that you have about becoming AI discoverable in this agentic commerce future, that's however that looks. So I just wanted to understand like what the services are that you have available. I just want to give people an opportunity, saying, hey, like wherever you are in your journey, there might be a fit. So I'd just like to give you an opportunity to kind of share kind of what services you do offer and the right type of customer that would make the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at its core, it's everything search for us. We really do kind of SEO or search optimization, and or paid search as well. So, think pay-per-click, think Google. We do some meta advertising as well, but primarily it's all showing up in search results, or, LLMs, if you want to think of those as search as well. We're even, even now with on the ad side, we're seeing ChatGPT roll out ads. In the 3 months, they've made so many changes to right? What your budget needs to be to satisfy, what it takes to qualify. And now like anybody can do it. But, so we do that as well on the paid media side. But SEO at its core, when we throw around all these acronyms like the AEO, the GEO, the AIO, all these other ones, right? And ultimately, when the way we look at SEO, it's kind of inclusive of all of those, right? When we optimize, we want to show up in traditional Google results, but we also want to show up in Google AI overviews or ChatGPT now or Perplexity. So when we think about kind of from a strategic perspective, we're trying to put together strategies and tactics that will make our clients visible across all the search landscape, right? However you want to look at that. I would say most of the clients for us, we work with a lot of e-commerce brands, a lot of people on Shopify, kind of that, I would say when you're scaling phase, right? Like maybe not, newer stores that are maybe sub, 2 million in revenue are a lot of times doing a lot of those things internally, but as they're trying to scale, get to that 5 or 10 or, $100 million number, whatever that may be, like that's where I think we really, excel, where we're trying to help those brands scale to that next level where they're trying to, maybe double the revenue over the next couple of years, whatever that may be. But, obviously it has to have, they're to the point where they have a marketing budget, they're trying to grow their team, and continue to scale.
Yeah, this is amazing. All right, so it's 802.com. Use the actual words. So I'll put that link in the show notes. And then I guess the next steps would be for those that kind of fit into that sweet spot. And that's kind of where you believe there's some challenges, discoverability. And, you folks can certainly help them with that. There's a contact page. So you can just go to the link in the upper right-hand corner. And and I guess just have a chat with your team and just, I guess, almost be a business partner a bit. Like just audit where you're at today and where do you believe some challenges are, and then we'll come up with your own hypothesis. The old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes it's really smart to have an independent third party with no cost to them to have a look where you're at today, and if it's a good fit or we believe we can help you, because sometimes you can't help everybody, but knowing where they're at today, you might be able to come up with a process that could assist them in their business. And I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And always happy to have those discussions too. And as you mentioned, yeah, if you visit our site, we do actually, we created a URL for you. If you go to 802.com/fastlane, feel free to reach out. Love to offer a free 30-minute consultation for all your guests or all your listeners there. Reach out, schedule an appointment. You'd probably talk to myself or somebody else close to me on our team here, and really, yeah, like you said, it's really just having that conversation. We love to kind of talk through where we see some opportunities for your business, and if it's a good fit, obviously love to work with new brands. But if not, I mean, we're pretty transparent, right? We don't want to try to sell you something that's not going to work, right? We're going to be pretty upfront. We can say, hey, you're probably not at the right stage for us now, or we think this is what we can do for you, right? So I think that's one thing with our team is we try to really be transparent and look for situations that are a great fit for us and for you guys, right? Where it's going to be a long-term partnership if we do move forward with something.
Yeah, I love it. So 802.com/fastlane. That'll redirect us. Really nice page you have here with book a free consultation, and it'll kind of take a look and see if your store's showing up in AI search or not, and kind of what potentially the next steps might be. So yeah, this is great, Rob. Well, thank you so much for recording today, and thanks for just being honest and just the transparent sharing and stuff. Like it's such a moving target right now, but I appreciate you just kind of sharing that. Here's the lay of the land. Here's where we're at today, and it's a nonstop process of learning and iterating and sharing information that's out there. End of the day, I think there's some basic principles that need to be kind of implemented, but it is a moving target a bit about, well, what can we do for discoverability and tracking that, and some on-page things that we've kind of gone through with PDP and collection pages and blog content and things like that. So this has been really cool. I've learned a lot, and hopefully my listeners have also. So thanks again.
I appreciate it, Steve. It's great to be on, and yeah, like I said, hopefully any listeners want to reach out, love to chat, and yeah, it's great being on.
All right, sounds good. All right, have yourself a great day.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.